I am shocked. The conspiracy theorist within me that I keep suppressed can't believe that Don Lemon actually challenged Stacey Abrams, asking her, are you applying a different standard? Because Stacey Abrams believes Joe Biden. Joe Biden was accused, but Abrams herself called out Brett Kavanaugh. I am surprised to see a story in which CNN does their due diligence and the little conspiracy theorist devil on my shoulder is saying this must be a ploy, setting up Joe Biden to fail because they know he's not a viable candidate and they need to switch him out. No, I don't think so. I think it's just, here's the reality. Defensive Joe Biden has become untenable. If you dedicated so much coverage to going after Kavanaugh, you now realize you're facing this recoil effect. You wanted the standard, you got it, and now, unsurprisingly, many people have no choice but to live up to it. So it was surprising for me to see the Daily Beast and now CNN actually pushing back. Of course, people like Stacey Abrams will still completely abandon any semblance of principle, and here's what I love. They use the New York Times as their defense. Well, the New York Times said it wasn't credible. The New York Times story was written before a bunch of corroborating evidence come out. Try harder. Well, let's read the story. I gotta say, I am no fan of Don Lemon, but I can respect that he actually pushed back on Stacey Abrams. Now look, a good journalist should do that. It doesn't mean Don Lemon supports or opposes her. A journalist can ask a question without being on one side or the other to give the person an opportunity to respond. Perhaps Joe Biden was lofting up a softball so she could crank it out of the park and make it seem like she's being rational because the New York Times says so. Take that into consideration, but let's read. The Daily Caller reports CNN's Don Lemon addressed former Vice President Joe Biden's assault allegation Tuesday in an interview with former Democratic Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. Abrams is one of Biden's vice presidential hopefuls and was grilled by Lemon about the allegation against Biden on CNN tonight. Lemon is one of the only hosts from legacy outlets to ask a potential vice president about Biden's allegations. I'm stopping. I'm sorry. Don Lemon, much respect, 100%. While I will state I am no fan of this man, I have been very, very critical of this guy. Credit where credit is due. If I see somebody do something good, they're going to get praise from me. Don Lemon being one of the only people, he's the only one who did it. Is that what they're saying? One of the only hosts to actually talk about this. How many times has Joe Biden been interviewed and nobody asked him? So you know what? I'm glad to see somebody doing it. And I'm not going to say this is going to make me a fan of Don Lemon, but he does deserve respect for doing it right. Former Senate staffer Tara Reid accused Biden of assault in the 90s. We know this, and Biden has denied it. Quote, as someone who wants to be his vice president, I think it's important that we speak about something that's in the news now, Lemon said. CNN has now spoken on the record with her former neighbor who says Reid told her about the allegation within a few years of the alleged incident. Biden's campaign says untrue, never happened. Is this a credible allegation, Lemon asked. Abrams stood by the former vice president in her response. Abrams said that although women deserve to be heard and listened to, she thinks the allegations have to be investigated by credible sources. Oh, please. The vice presidential hopeful then mentioned a New York Times investigation published April 12th, a couple weeks ago, that deemed Reid's allegation to be not credible. The New York Times claimed to have done a thorough investigation, but more evidence has surfaced in the past 2 weeks that corroborates Reid's allegation, including footage from CNN. 1993, August 11th, Larry King. Abrams continued on to repeat talking points that the Biden campaign allegedly distributed about the matter, according to BuzzFeed News. The talking points reportedly advised people to say that Reid's allegation did not happen. I believe Joe Biden, Abrams said. I believe that he is a person who has demonstrated that his love of family, his love of our community, has been made perfectly clear through his work as a congressional leader and as an American leader. I know Joe Biden, and I think he's telling the truth, and that did not happen. Lemon continued with his questioning and pointed out that Abrams' comments appear to be a double standard. Wow. He noted a 2018 tweet from Abrams where she wrote that, quote, it is shameful that Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh's nomination, is being rushed forward following Christine Blasey Ford's courageous and compelling testimony that was investigated, that found no corroborating evidence, that had no witnesses, that she didn't even remember for the most part. Now that was courageous and compelling testimony. You know what, man? I'm sick of the double standards myself. And I gotta say, I'm gonna do it again. Props to Don Lemon, 100%. So here's the tweet from Abrams. After the courageous and compelling testimony from Dr. Christine Blasey Ford yesterday, it is shameful that Kavanaugh's nomination is being rushed forward. I believe women, and I believe survivors of violence always deserve to be supported and have their voices heard. Are you applying a different standard now, Lemon wondered. Abrams pushed back on Lemon's question, saying, not at all. She said that Reed deserved to have her story listened to and investigated, and suggested there was a difference with Ford's accusation. Abrams said there was no investigation and a rush to move the conversation forward to prevent an investigation of Ford's case. Not at all, she said. Deserved to have her story listened to and investigated. I love it. When it comes to someone making an accusation against someone you hope to be your boss, you can say, we will absolutely listen to and give a figurative investigation, not actually ask anybody, not actually look for records. And even when you do have corroborating evidence, claim it's not corroborating evidence. I love this. In the New York Times story, there were a couple interns who claimed that Tara Reid abruptly was no longer supervising them. And Tara Reid claimed it's because she filed a complaint and then got punished for it. Interesting. That sounds like corroboration from witnesses. That sounds like more corroboration than Christine Blasey Ford had. But it's not enough for them. It's never enough. We know Stacey Abrams playing the game. She wants to be the vice president, man. Come on. She's not going to trash talk Joe Biden. Even though Joe Biden's not going to win, she wants her name on that ticket, and she'll get it. I'd like to give a special shout out to all of those woke celebrities who were propping her up. Where do you stand on all of this? Are you going to come out now like Don Lemon will and the Daily Beast will, calling out the fact that these feminist organizations won't stand up to Joe Biden? Nah, they want to win. That's all they want. Quote, so you've said you've heard her. You've heard enough. You don't believe her. You believe Joe Biden, Lemon summed up. Abrams reiterated her past comments about the New York Times investigation and said that she believed, quote, the Biden I know. She added that she thinks he will make women proud as well as America, and did not agree that Biden should address the situation better. There are a series of tweets by some resistance never-Trumper type Democrat people, one of whom I actually know, who went insane. I'm not kidding. I know this woman. She went totally nuts. She thinks Russians are everywhere. It's nuts how crazy she went. She told a story about how in the 90s she was assaulted by a politician who apparently died or something. And she said, this man who assaulted me, if he was still alive, I would vote for him 100 times before condemning Joe Biden or something like that, or voting for Trump. They don't care about what Donald Trump has done. They don't care about what Brett Kavanaugh has done. They didn't care if there was or wasn't any serious qualms with Brett Kavanaugh being, with his behavior. They just want to win. The only thing they care about is their power, and they will take it by any means necessary. They don't play fair. And I think it's because if they know if they play fair, they'll lose. Here's a quote. I believe his campaign has been very clear, and I believe that this is the approach that they intend to take, and I support that approach, Abrams said. Again, we don't want women to ever be afraid to come forward, but we also have to recognize that allegations should be investigated and that those investigations need to be borne out. You didn't say that about Brett Kavanaugh. Let's talk about playing fair. Donald Trump wins. What do they say? Change the Electoral College to a popular vote. They want to change the rules because they lost. Now what's happening? We should have mail-in voting for all states. It should be in the bill. They want to change the rules instead of playing fair. Republicans, you got a serious problem. Maybe the problem is that Republicans won't stand up to these people. Maybe Republicans need to argue similarly. I don't know. I can't stand any of it. Right now, you have a set of rules. You set by these people in media and by Democrats. If you're accused, we're going to take that seriously and use it against you. When it comes to Biden, they don't use those rules anymore. No, we don't want these rules anymore. We all have rules in the election, the Electoral College. When Republicans win, it's not fair. The rules need to be changed every single time. When Obama wins, they don't say anything. You've got to win these places. Now, here's the big problem I have with the mail-in voting thing, because it's kind of been a subject that I've been bringing up quite a bit. It's been popping up. It's a rule change. That's all I care about. Stop trying to change the rules and just try and win. Oh, what's that? You can't win. You're losing the argument. Changing the rules is not a principled way to actually win on ideas. What do we want? Do we want politicians who are in power because they want power? Or do we want politicians who said, okay, here's what I got to do to win. I'm going to make sure I do everything I need to do to win within the system and within the rules in front of us. I don't necessarily like either. I want a politician who's going to say, here are some good ideas, please respect them. But the reality is, elections are popularity contests. You know what? And I can expect and respect that within reason. Fine, that's the way it is. But to come out and constantly argue the rules should change for you is the most immature, childish BS ever. And that's all they seem to do. And now here we are, once again, watching the Democrats say, in this instance, the rules should be applied differently to us than they would be to you. So you know what? No. You will not get my support. In fact, you will get my opposition because you're hypocrites with no principles. While I don't agree with Republicans on policy ideas, at least they're presenting their ideas and playing fair. That's all I can really say. Now, if you got a good idea, argue it, maybe you'll win. No, they don't want to. Maybe they have no good ideas, and maybe they know their ideas wouldn't win over the American people. I guess we'll find out come November. Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up for you in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.